So let's take, for instance here, if I ask the arc sine of 1/2. Now, another way of reading arc sine is to basically put it into terms, okay, the angle whose sine is. So I'm looking for an angle that has a value of sine. When I take the sine of it, it gives me 1/2. Well, if I go back to the trig table, which you're supposed to know, there's actually two values that fall into that. Pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. The problem is, the only one that falls into the range between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, which is what the range of arc sine is pi over 6. And that's why it's the answer. So these arc functions are going to give us some starting places to find answers, but we have to keep in mind it's not necessarily going to be the only possible answer. When I deal with arc cosine of 1/2, well, an angle that has a cosine of 1/2, well, pi over 3 is 1, but so also would be, for instance, 5 pi over 3. But again, the range for arc cosine is from 0 to pi. So the only one of those that falls between 0 and pi is, of course, pi over 3. When I deal with arc sine of negative 1/2, well, I can think of a lot of angles, it's going to be related to pi over 6, so 7 pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. Those are two angles that if I take their sine will give me a negative 1/2. But the problem is, neither of those angles would fall between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. I had to think of an angle that would do that. So, an angle that would do that would put me into the fourth quadrant, where sines are negative, and I had to do a negative pi over 6 and go in that direction, which is coterminal of 11 pi over 6. Same angle position, different way of getting there, but that's what that answer would be. Whereas when I deal with arc cosine, well, I have two options there. I have 2 pi over 3, or I have 4 pi over 3. Those are two angles that if I take their cosine would give me negative 1/2. Again, the angles that falls in the range values between 0 and pi would of course be 2 pi over 3. So that's what the answer is. So when I deal with these arc functions, they produce one answer. That one answer could be the answer to my equation, but there might be several others that fit into there. The arc tangent of negative 1. Now again, I want an angle that if I take its tangent gives me negative 1. Positive angles, I would look at, possibility of being 3 pi over 4 or 7 pi over 4. But again, the arc tangent's range is between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4 do not fall in that range. I need a negative angle then to possibly look at it, and the angle that would give me a negative 1 would be a negative pi over 4. And the arc tangent of the square root of 3. Now, square root of 3 is an angle you're to recognize, and it's okay, well, trying to think here. That would give me a base of pi over 3. And, another possibility would be, trying to think here, 4 pi over 3. But again, 4 pi over 3 would not fall in the range of being between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So you have to make sure that you are meeting up with the requirements of the range restrictions. So make sure, and they're in the notes, so make sure that you take special note of them, because that's what you're going to have to use to decide. And you also have to keep that in mind as you solve equations and whatnot as we go forward with this.